Welcome to Money Matters TV. I'm your host this evening, Patricia Dunn, Senior Vice President with Merrill Lynch in Conshohocken, specifically with the Dunn Wealth Management Group. And my co-host tonight is Dr. James Chan, who is a consultant with the Asian Marketing and Management Company. And we have a very special guest with us tonight, Jeffery Lauria, who is a Vice President of IT with iCorps Technologies. Now, iCorps Technologies is a company that specializes in providing professional IT consulting services, and he has some fascinating things to share with us. But given what's going on in the news, James.
I don't know what to say, really, frankly, Pat. But you can ask.
Okay.
You can ask anything you want. I'm ready.
Well,
for the slings and arrows.
I'm not going to attack.
Yeah,
no, I'm easy.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But with Hong Kong being so much in the news,
I know.
And someone who works in China and Hong Kong,
right.
What can you share with our viewers? What are your thoughts?
I have to take a deep breath.
Okay.
There is so much to say, and I don't know where to start.
Okay.
I have never seen Hong Kong going through a thing like this, with people really kind of resorting to banging people on the head or destroying public property just to tell the government that they are angry. It's unprecedented. I think that the reason is younger people, I'm oversimplifying, younger people, by younger I mean people 18 to 25, maybe people 18 to 28, feel that their future is very limited and that they are going to lose the kind of freedom that they were born into.
Yes, grew up in.
They were never guaranteed those freedom because Hong Kong used to be a British colony. So it was the British who somehow, in exchange for ruling Hong Kong, would let the Hong Kong Chinese have those freedoms. I know because I grew up in Hong Kong.
Oh.
My education was a British colonial education. I used to say half the class passed the test instead of half the class passed the test. I mean, I know. And I think that this is the core of the anger that young people feel that even with a college degree, they're not making enough money to even buy a little matchbox of an apartment. And that their future they don't see is as rosy as their older people. By older, I mean a generation older, or maybe even half a generation older could have foreseen. I think that that's where it is. They see that their happiness is going to be curtailed, and that the economic opportunities are dimmer and dimmer, particularly to be really very frank, almost kind of like not sugarcoating anything. Hong Kong people used to have a kind of disdain on their compatriots in China, on the mainland China. Well, because they are sexier, they dress more prettily.
Yes.
They know the Western ways better. They can speak better English. They used to be able to say what they have on their mind, and so the mainland Chinese people used to really adore Hong Kong. They would love to go to Hong Kong. They would want to kind of rub something off of Hong Kong. But unfortunately, over the past at least 5 years, if not 10 years, the table has been turned. In other words, the mainland Chinese people no longer see Hong Kong in a golden haze. Yeah, they don't feel, well, first of all, the yuan, the Chinese currency, the renminbi, the yuan, is now more valuable than the Hong Kong dollar has been for a few years now. And also people from China can outbuy the Hong Kong people. Oh yeah, they have more money and they also feel that, well, we are going to be your boss anyway. Like we're going to.
That's right.
Oh yeah, because 28 years from now, in the year 2047, Hong Kong will have to be completely under Chinese system, and that's just the way it is. So sensing that their freedom will be losing soon, and also sensing at the same time that before they might have to lose all the freedom, the Western style freedoms that they still enjoy, that they feel that the mainland Chinese government is already chipping at it. It's taking one piece away, like a stack of paper, one paper at a time per day. That's where the anger and the rage is. It's about rage. I've never seen it, and it's not a pleasant topic, because it doesn't matter whether you are pro Hong Kong or pro China. Whatever you say, someone will attack you. So it's worse than our politics. Worse. So I'm going to Hong Kong too soon to see my mother, to see my 98-year-old mother. And my mainland Chinese friends are already telling me, James, don't go, they'll beat you up.
Oh no.
I said, no, I have my mother to see.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah. But what they don't understand, or I can't say they forget, but the thing is that my mother fled Hong Kong. When I was born, my parents abandoned their property and just literally flee to Hong Kong. And so, you flee Hong Kong, you flee China once, you're ready to flee China again. That kind of thing.
But at 98, she
98.
must break her heart.
Well, I mean, recently on the phone, when she still have her mind is still sound. She kind of comes in and out.
Yes.
When she really comes in, she says something like, I hope to see you one more time at least. I said, okay, I'm coming.
So you're
I don't care. But I need to be very cautious when I
Yes.
get there.
Yes.
I know it's heartbreaking. The situation is heartbreaking because Hong Kong is losing its tourists.
Yes.
Its retail trade suffers, and I'm sure that later on, I need to ask you about how your clients, the investors feel about Hong Kong and what are they do financially, but it's a very painful subject, and I don't really know what to do. I'm sympathetic, but I also know China.
Yes.
I know that China is not going to change.
No.
No one has been able to change China.
No.
Not even China right now can change itself.
Exactly.
Not so easy.
No.
Not so easy. So there's too long an answer to your simple question. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
But I think Hong Kong is a wonderful place. I hope that maybe in a few more months things get better and it will go back again as a place where people like to go. Because Hong Kong has always been safe, orderly, efficient. As long as you have money, you can do anything. Nobody really cares.
That's right.
Yeah, it's like the painting Peaceable Kingdom with all
Yes,
the animals in the
yes.
forest and there's no fight.
That's right. That's right. I remember.
Oh yeah, Peaceable
Yes.
Kingdom.
Yes.
It's real. It can happen.
Well, let's hope and pray it happens again.
Yeah. Now back to you as a wealth management advisor. What do you tell your clients, when it comes to Hong Kong, investment, finance, mergers and acquisition, the whole gamut?
Well, it's very interesting because the investors we work with are very serious investors.
Oh yeah, they have to
And
be.
they're very focused on financial planning
Right.
and having their investment portfolios
Right.
eventually grow to the point where they can cover their goals, their
I'm
needs.
sure that some of these are pension fund holders or with big
Oh,
money.
absolutely.
Big money.
Big money.
Big money. Yeah.
But even that being said, serious investors still want their money handled smartly.
Sure.
And they ask us to reduce the level of risk in their portfolio, particularly during volatile times. The bottom line is they know they can't do anything about Hong Kong.
No.
They're not going to respond to the latest Twitter
No.
or the latest news feed. Serious investors control the controllable. So for them, we're getting more and more of this, questions about impact investing, responsible investing. The demand is really growing for this. And it's no surprise because good companies produce good business, produce good performance.
And you need stability
And stability.
and certainty.
Now, it's not new, and we're not the only ones being affected by this.
No.
There have actually been studies done on people asking about impact or responsible investing. Women, 46% of women either own or are interested in responsible investment strategies.
Okay.
And we're the smallest group.
Okay.
Gen X, which is your career generation, typically people 40 to 55, the number is 56%
That's high.
have an interest in that.
Okay.
The greatest group of all, which probably will come as no surprise, as you mentioned, you were educated in Hong Kong, it's the millennials. 77% of the millennials, your 20-somethings and your 30-somethings, either own or have an interest in responsible investing. So now for our viewers out there, you're probably scratching your head saying, what the heck is
yes,
responsible investing? What is impact
right,
investing?
right.
Well, the interesting thing is that the United Nations actually defined it. It was not the SEC. It was not FINRA. And to make sure I got the definition absolutely pristine correctly, I wrote it down. The UN Principles for Responsible Investment defines responsible investing as an approach to investing that aims to incorporate environmental, E for environmental, social, S for social, and governance, G for governance, otherwise known as ESG, factors into investment decisions to better manage risk and to generate sustainable long-term results. ESG. Now, our investors, our viewers out there probably have heard the term ESG, didn't know what it meant. They may have even had an advisor say, would you like to look at an ESG portfolio? Now you know what it is. Let me define it a little bit further. What makes a company support sustainable growth? Well, these are companies that are into, and not just giving lip service to, but really into diversity, gender equality. Are there women on the board of directors? Is it one woman as a token, or is it a group of women? Do they actively promote women and other minorities? Are they into clean energy? Are they into clean water? How about things that are positive for climate action? Conversely, these are companies that avoid negatives like gun violence and opioid production. This does not lead to company sustainability. The proof is in the performance. These investment strategies perform. It gives the investor in very volatile times the opportunity to control the controllable.
So, given the Hong Kong situation, have you seen or heard any serious client saying, look, Pat, why don't you, tone down something or like lower it a little bit and then move a percentage here and percentage there?
Absolutely.
So it's really happening.
It's really happening. Yes, people want investment strategies that are going to promote long-term shareholder value, manage risk, and have a positive impact on global issues. And that's really kind of the connection, because they can't do anything about Hong Kong. But if they can invest in investment strategies that have audited track records that do this.
So let me, again, caring about Hong Kong, so the continuous protests and negative news coming out of Hong Kong in the end is still not financially advantageous to the protesters themselves.
No. No, but it is driving here on the other side, those who want to control the controllable, more of a demand for responsible investing strategies.
Right.
And it's, I'm sure it's not just our practice, the Dunn Group, that's
Right, I
experiencing this.
understand, yeah.
I'm sure all wealth
Okay.
management advisors are as well.
It only gets more sophisticated and demanding and more critical thinking is required.
More critical
They
thinking.
just,
Very
oh,
well
yeah, what am I
put.
supposed to do? Oh, just push the button.
That's
Just
absolutely
push the
right.
button. Right, yeah, the 50s strategy, right?
That's right. So, are you ready for a viewer question?
I am, although I'm extremely apprehensive as to what
Okay,
the
well,
question would be.
Well, it is about Hong Kong. Nancy Roberts of Philadelphia asks, how much have China businesses been hurt by the trade problem with the United States? So it's not directly Hong Kong, it's
Yeah,
China
right.
businesses
Right,
being
yeah.
hurt
Right.
by the trade problem with the
Okay.
United States.
Right. That's easy to answer because I have to live it daily.
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 Okay.
Nancy, first of all, there's something I need to tell you. Mainland China controls its press. So the government controls what can be disseminated. So even if businesses are hurting, the stories are not going to be allowed to be broadcast. And after having said this, I can tell you from talking to my agents, my friends, and all kinds of people, end users, customers of my clients, I know that the trade war has been hurting Chinese businesses. There's no question about it. Because first of all, if you just look at our trade figures with China, our trade with China has dropped 10%. So 10% is still a big number. So yes, it's been hurting. Now, but however, we have to define the meaning of hurt. Does it mean that because businesses in China have been impacted, therefore they are going to rally, meaning the Chinese are going to rally their own government to say, oh, let's cry uncle. Let's tell the US, oh yeah, we're going to buy more of your products and make sure that we have no trade deficit with you. Or, oh, we're going to pirate your product less. Or, oh, we're going to not going to force your corporations to give up their technology in order to have a share of the China market. The answer is a clear no. They're not going to do that. In fact, on the contrary, it's only going to make the Chinese people feel more tough, more together, more united. Okay, the US is now the enemy. Fine, we are going to take measures. And as a matter of fact, the trade war is hurting ourselves too, because if you look at today's figures just published in the press, our trade deficit with the world actually increased, even though our trade with China dropped 10%. Our import-export trade is $10 billion more a month, meaning the import. We're losing $10 billion a month, and at the same time, the consumers are paying $34 billion more as a result. So it's a big topic, but yes, they're hurting Chinese businesses, but we are also hurting.
Well, now, if the viewers would like to send in their questions for future shows, here's how it's done.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says, Send us your questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, M-O-N-E-Y, -matters, M-A-T-T-E-R-S, TV.com.
Welcome back. Now for the best part of the show, where we get to talk with Jeff Lauria, a Vice President of IT at iCorps Technologies. You have a huge subject to cover, but I'm going to start with the first question here. And that is, with the state of cybersecurity today, we are seeing more and more data breaches. Would you like to comment on this?
Sure. So over the last 5 years, we've seen millions and millions of records being breached, confidential information, personal information, and this is a global issue. So what we're seeing from a trend is it continues. And one of the responses from government, be it here in the US and the UK, is regulatory compliance. So now, 5 years ago, if you were to lose your data, if you had a data breach, there was no really ramifications. Today, there are penalties. Additionally, there is even civil actions happening. So, like for example, here in Philadelphia, the court system was shut down for about 2 weeks because of a data breach and ransomware. So not only is it impactful to the business, those affected are now actually being able to take recourse. So according to folks, Verizon and McAfee, data breaches, 100% increase year over year. Cybercrime, 100% increase year over year.
That's scary.
It is, and we talked about a little bit about China, right?
Right, yeah.
So historically, we've looked at Russia and China as being two of the major players in cybersecurity or cyber threats. But now we have Brazil, we have India, we have North Korea, and these nation-state actors are using cybersecurity and cyber threats and cyber crime to actually fund things. So, for example, recently published was an article about North Korea about cyber crime was funding their nuclear programs. So, same thing with Russia. Yeah. So we have, if you think about it, there are really three types of cybercrime. There is cyber terrorism, which there's not much that we can do about that. That's a very government state kind of thing. There is activism, right, where there's organizations that are trying to get their point across. But 90% of cyber crime is relevant to getting your money, right? And however we get your money, be it phishing attacks, where we get username and passwords, and then we go and drain your bank account, or business phishing emails, where we convince you to transfer money here, or even text messages now, where we get to do this. So those things are happening. That's about 97% of cybercrime, and of that, about 80% of that is user-based, meaning that it is you and me actually doing this, right? We're getting an email where we're clicking on it, we're getting a text message, we're clicking on it, and then those folks are taking advantage of that information. We have data breaches, right? We have things like, again, here in Philadelphia, the court system, we have healthcare systems, we have Equifax, where data is being breached, they're taking this information and they are acting upon this information. So this problem is getting worse. It's not getting better. About $700 billion a year estimated. If you think about that, that is just a little bit less than 1% of the global gross national product is in cybercrime. And that is growing year over year over year. So in 2014, we're talking about 400 billion, 2015, we add another billion, so forth and so forth. So this is a significant problem. And what we're seeing is governments, be it China, Brazil, India, North Korea, this is part of almost their funding to actually fund other things when we talk about nation-state threats.
Can we come up with something positive here? Is there something that helps?
Well, I'm not sure. Well,
artificial intelligence, maybe?
So, and here's a very interesting part. If you think about this, when we talk about the evolution of computers and science and all these things, the big thing today is artificial intelligence. You turn the TV on and you see these great commercials about the ruins in Italy and how they use artificial intelligence to kind of provide historical information. Well, interestingly enough, is these actors, these criminals, we'll call these cyber criminals, are also using artificial intelligence. What they're doing is, which is amazing if you think about it, they're taking the data from, let's say, Equifax. They're taking that information. Then they're taking the data and the data breaches from, let's say, a hotel breach. And then they're taking all these data breaches, they're using artificial intelligence to come up with a profile for you. So it is very clear that your information, be it social security number, mortgage information, your name, maiden name, dog's name, all that information has now, via artificial intelligence, has created a profile for you. We talk about Cambridge Analytics a couple of years ago with Facebook, right? That's just one company that happened to get caught, right? That was a legitimate company. If you think about these actors, they have all this information about you. And what they're doing is they're exploiting that. They're either getting credit, they're buying things, they're impersonating you. So that is happening day in and day out. So as compute power increases, so does this.
How do we protect ourselves?
Very
You got 3 minutes. How do
For
we
3
protect-
minutes, okay, so 3 minutes. So very interesting question, very, very important. From a business perspective, as a business owner, what you want to do is you want to protect your individuals, right? What that means is you hear of these commercials on TV about LifeLock and all these things in the dark web.
Right.
What you want to do, the biggest single biggest thing you can do is put identity management on your employees. And what that means is you hire a service that looks at their username and password, checks dark web and all this fantastic stuff, and notifies you if that information is found. On average, it's about 110 days before anyone discovers a data breach. So the sooner you know that your username and password has been compromised is the sooner that you can actually respond. From a consumer perspective, you want to do literally the same thing. Utilize a service. Couple of things. Never use the same password on websites. Never give true information. So when they ask you for your mother's maiden name, I give my mother's maiden name, make it up. When they ask you about the first car you owned, make it up, because all that information is public information. So if I am targeting you and I figure out that you were born in Boston, Massachusetts, I can go online to Boston, Massachusetts, figure out when you were born, look at a newspaper article, figure out what the maiden name is of your mother, where you lived, maybe what your pet's name is. All that information, change it, because that's public information. The first car you owned is public information. I can go to the Philadelphia Department of Motor Vehicles and I can find out your car, your address, the color. So those security questions you're being asked are ultimately public information. So give something different. So when they ask you your maiden name, it's McGillicuddy. Doesn't matter. Just remember what it is, because you're going to be asked down the road. But utilize that. The other thing is we all rely upon a username and password, and that is easily obtained. Think about this concept of multi-factor authentication, right? 30 seconds, a one-time password. If you use that, you eliminate 90% of the threats. So from a business perspective, look at your employees and really guard them. From a personal perspective, implement multi-factor authentication, and those security questions you're asked, skip them. And also think about this. If you didn't ask for the information, don't provide the information. If I called you today and said, give me your credit card number, you'd hang up, because we've been trained over the years not to do that. So if I sent you an email and said, give me your username and password, delete it.
Jeff, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
We will have to have you back. Our next guest on the show is David Lyman, who happens to be the president of ServPro of Chester County. Please be sure to stay tuned for that show. And for now, remember, your money matters.